Verse 1, Boaz went to the town gate and took a seat there. Just then, everybody say just then, the family redeemer he had mentioned came by. So Boaz calls out to him, "Come over here, sit down, friend. I want to talk to you." So they sat down together. Then Boaz called 10 leaders from the town and asked them to sit as witnesses. And Boaz said to the family redeemer, "You know Naomi, who came back from Moab. She's selling the land that belonged to our relative Elimelech. I thought I should speak to you about it so that you can redeem it if you wish. If you want the land, then buy it here in the presence of these witnesses. But if you don't want it, let me know right away, because I am next in line to redeem it after you." The man replied, "All right, I'll redeem it." Then Boaz told him, "Well, of course, your purchase of the land from Naomi also requires that you marry Ruth, the Moabite widow. That way she can have children who will carry on her husband's name and keep the land in the family. Then I can't redeem it." The family redeemer replied, "Because this might endanger my own estate. You redeem the land. I cannot do it." And then verse 16, Naomi took the baby and cuddled him to her breast, and she cared for him as if he were her own. The neighbor women said, "Now at last," shout, "now at last, Naomi has a son again." And they named him Obed. He became the father of Jesse and the grandfather of David. Shout amen. Shout the subject, if you would, loudly. Cultivating a sense for godly timing. Very good. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, as I said, I welcome you. And this is the fourth week of a 4-week series on living a life of impact. And over the last several weeks, I have sought to make the case from the book of Ruth that if you want to live a life of highest impact, there are at least 4 decisions and 4 practices that you need to discipline yourself to do regularly. And it will help you to live a life of high impact. The first is that we have to be honest about our pain. The second is that we must prioritize character over reputation. The third is that we must be actively trying to fill our lives with as many wise people as possible to help us in our decisions. And then lastly, today, we want to focus on the fact that we need to cultivate a sense for godly timing. When I use the word godly timing, I'm really saying that there is a timing mechanism in life that only God works, and we want to be able to take advantage of it. There's a story told about a fellow who was a novice golfer, and one day he went out to play golf, and he teed off, and to his surprise, the ball went halfway the fairway. He was so excited, he and his caddy went down and found that the ball had landed on an ant hill. But when he looked at its proximity to the green, he said, "Well, this is good." So he, with all the confidence in the world, gets the right club out, takes his position, and swings. He misses the ball, but he kills about 458,000 ants in one swing. So he said, "Well, let's try it again." And so takes his position with full confidence, looks at the ball, and he swings again. Of course, he misses the ball again, but he kills another 4,550 ants, leaving only 2 ants alive on the anthill. So one of the ants looked at the other ant and said, "Do you know what time it is?" And the other ant said, no. And the first ant says, it's time to get on the ball. In other words, that's the only thing he ain't going to hit, right? He's going to hit everything else but the ball. Get on the ball. Tell somebody it's time to get on the ball. That's a hilarious joke, but it makes a point. I think that God is trying to say to someone here today, I'm confident, or watching by video, it's time to get on the ball. That he's been bringing opportunities and possibilities into your life, as someone told me about an hour ago after they left here. But you, because of fear or because of a variety of reasons, you haven't taken advantage of it. And you stymied what God has wanted to do in your life. And you've limited your impact. And God is saying, it's time to get on the ball. I've loved the book of Ruth. Part of the reason I've loved reading through it, and if you haven't read it, I'm going to encourage you to read it on video. Just read it. Just 4 chapters. It's a great read. And one of the things that I really like about this book is that it's a story that happens right in the nitty-grittiness of real life. It's real. As real as the tragic death of Beau Biden, the son of the vice president, who died yesterday at 46 years old, leaving behind grieving children and a grieving wife, a grieving dad, a grieving family. As horrendously as that tragic death is, and our prayers are with the Biden family, is equally as real as Naomi's tragedy. That's the book opens up in a tragedy. Naomi has lost her husband of many years. She has lost her 2 sons, her 2 adult sons. And the book opens up in a tragedy. And around verse 14, as she's getting ready to go back to Bethlehem from Moab, she says to her 2 daughter-in-laws who are walking with her, don't come to me, because I have no future for you. See, because in her context, in the agrarian context, in her day, that the fact of the matter is she wouldn't be able to inherit her husband's property. If she could sell it, she might get a little money from it. But because there was no children left, when she died, that would be the end of the family. So from Naomi's standpoint, what was most horrible about the tragedy is she no longer had a future. It's pretty bad. No future. And so she says to the girls, look, no need to come with me, because I don't have a future for you. I don't even have a future for myself. But in verse 16, Ruth said, watch this, she says, please don't make me turn around. She says, where you go, that's where I want to go. Where you live, that's where I want to live. Your God, that's going to be my God. Where you die, that's where I will die. And where you're buried, bury me right there beside you. That's the pledge that I make. And in verse 18, the text says that when Naomi saw that Ruth was so determined, Naomi kept quiet and walked, which meant she decided to let Ruth come. Now, here's what Naomi didn't know. God, in that very moment, had slipped into the details of her tragedy and surprisingly had brought in the person of Ruth an unexpected expression of his grace. And once it became fully mature, it would figuratively and literally give birth to a brand new future for Naomi. Right there. It was a surprise. She didn't see it. She wasn't clear about it. And the good news for somebody here today who just broke up with your boyfriend, who's just going through a horrendous divorce, the good news for someone here today who's struggling with horrendous challenge with your adult children, and you've come to the end of your rope, or someone has died who you love so dearly, and you have saying, you didn't know anyone heard you, but God heard you whisper it as you came in here. You know, I really don't have a future. I'm just ready to just wave my hands and say goodbye to it all. The good news for you is that the same God who showed up in Ruth's story is the same God who's active in your story. And right in the middle of your tragedy, keep your eyes open. He has a way of bringing an unexpected expression of grace that will move your life towards redemption. Give him time. Tell somebody, give him time. He sees you. He hasn't forgotten about you. And it's the activities of life he's at work, working for you. Now, what's fascinating about the book of Ruth is that nowhere in the book of Ruth do you ever hear this phrase, and God said. Like in Genesis, in Genesis it says, and God spoke to Abraham. Nowhere in the book of Ruth do you hear that. Nowhere in the book of Ruth do you ever hear the phrase, someone saying, and I heard the Lord say to me. Nowhere in the book of Ruth is that present. Now, let's be clear, the Lord does speak to us. I remember in Chicago, a number of years ago, I was flying through Chicago. My flight got delayed, and I was window shopping. Because that's what you do when you're in an airport. You don't buy, you window shop. In your right mind, don't buy in the airport. All right. So I was window shopping. Now, remind you, my flight was delayed, so I wasn't even supposed to be there. And a fellow walks up to me, a young man walks up. I catch him out of my peripheral vision as I'm looking in the window, and he's going back and forth, trying, indecisive about whether to speak to me. And I just had a sense in my spirit. So I turned to him and I said, do you want to talk to me about something? And he was nervous and stuttering, and then, it was just one of these odd moments. I just knew. It was almost as though God spoke to me. I just knew. So I said to him, do you have a word for me? Do you have a word from the Lord for me? This is precisely what I asked him. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this, every now and then, God has a way for those who are in tune of literally dropping a relevant word into the heart of somebody to communicate it. We used to call it growing up, God can read your mail. All right. So I turned and I said, do you have a word for me? And he said, are you a Christian? I said, yes. And not only that, I'm a pastor. I said, I'm pastor of a church in Boston. He said, do you know anyone named Bailey? I said, yes. I said, the Baileys is a family in my church. As a matter of fact, they're going through a crisis right now. He said, the Lord said for me to tell you to pray for them. I said, oh, praise God. I said, I certainly will do. And I said, I left, found me a little corner, and for the next 30, 40 minutes, I prayed for the Bailey family and prayed specifically for that crisis that was going on. Then I pulled out my phone. I called Miss Bailey. I said, what's going on? And she said, nothing has changed. I said, that's all right. I think help is on the way. And then I got on the flight, flew back to Boston the next morning. When I called her, she said, Pastor, you'll never believe what happened. Somehow through the night, there was a break and everything broke loose. And now everything has returned to normal. Come on, sometime God will speak directly to you. He's still able to do that. But that's usually the exception to the rule. For most of us, it won't happen that way. For most of us, it will happen in the same way. Most of us won't be able to say, I heard God say, or whatever. Here's how God will work in most of our lives in the same way that he worked in the book of Ruth. God showed up at the intersection between Ruth and Naomi's decisions and God's activities. Now, let me just talk to you a little bit about the interplay between decision and timing, God's timing. There are 4 different ways to talk about it, look at it in terms of how it works in our lives. Sometimes we make the wrong decision at the wrong time. That's one way. June 17, 1972, some burglars broke into a building that was called the Watergate. they were caught in the act of wiretapping phones and stealing secret documents that belonged to the Democratic National Committee, which was housed in the headquarters there. Now, later it was found out that they were connected to President Nixon's re-election campaign. Somebody say timing. And while it was never proved that President Nixon authorized the break-in, what we do know, given the timing, his campaign, that in an effort to protect his political reputation as he was running for re-election, he made a series of decisions. One, he raised hush money so that the burglars wouldn't talk. Two, he interfered with the FBI's investigation. Three, he destroyed some important evidence. In an effort to protect his reputation, he compromised his character. And while he won re-election, he would ultimately end in resignation. What's the lesson here? It really doesn't matter what time frame Mr. Nixon made those decisions. It would have always been the wrong decision at the wrong time. Whenever you compromise your character, wrong decision, wrong time. For others of us, we make the wrong decision at the right time. Here's an example. Wrong decision, right time. How many of you all remember Blockbuster? Y'all remember Blockbuster? All right. This is a young crowd, y'all might not remember. But on Friday night back in the 80s, you'd find me in Blockbuster, all right? For those of you who don't know what Blockbuster is, they used to rent videos. Okay. And I would be up and down the new release aisles, and if what I was looking for wasn't there, do you guys, those of you remember, they used to have those bins where people would turn back in, and so I'd be trying to go through the bins looking for a rental. Well, at the height of Blockbuster's success, they had 5,000 stores all around the world, and they were making more than $5 billion a year. Towards the end of the 90s, a little company named Netflix was born. And their claim to fame was that they figured out that they could sell a subscription and send DVD to your house in the mail. And it caught on. So in the year 2000, the executives of Netflix flew down to Dallas to meet with the CEO of Blockbuster. And here's the deal they offered. They said, look, for $50 million, we will join forces with Blockbuster and help Blockbuster create an online and through the mail subscription for DVDs. Build its business. The CEO literally laughed the executives of Netflix out of his office. He thought that was the most ridiculous thing he had ever heard. Big, giant Blockbuster and this little company, Netflix, coming in this little niche market. Are you kidding? In 2000, somebody say, right time, wrong decision. In 2010, Blockbuster filed bankruptcy and closed its last store. Today, Netflix is a $20 billion annual business. We have a Netflix fan right here. I am too. My wife and I just got an account. It's great. Watching West Wing last night. Now, somebody say, right time, wrong decision. On other occasions, we make the right decision at the wrong time. Give a perfect example out of my own life. Anybody in here remember PE? All right, because they don't have PE in a lot of these schools today. But when I was coming through, we had to do PE. And I remember in the 7th grade, Coach Joseph was my coach, and we had PE. That's where I learned how to play basketball. And so, but when I used to play basketball PE, I was so timid. I had such lousy self-confidence that whenever they would throw me the ball, I'd hurry up and throw it to somebody else, even if I had an open shot. So Mr. Joseph kept fussing at me. So on this one occasion, he pulled me out of the game. He said, come over here. I said, boy, he said, listen to me. If you have a clear shot, take it. Even if you miss it, don't worry about it. It's worth taking the shot. He said, you got it? I said, yes, sir, I got it. Back in. And so the ball string, we're in the offense court. I saw where they were throwing the ball at, and I ran and made a move and intercepted the ball. And then back in that day, Dr. J was the man. Y'all don't even know who that was, who that is now. But and I don't know what happened to me, but just suddenly I was a Dr. J protege. But I just went down and around, and then went back out of the way. And before I saw it, nothing but nets. I was shouting and jumping, but all my teammates was fussing and screaming and hollering. I said, what? They said, you shot in the wrong goal. It was full court basketball. I had intercepted the ball in the offense court. I was supposed to go to the other side. Right decision, wrong time. How many of you've made the right decision, but you have attached the right decision to the wrong goal? The book of Ruth is about this fourth category. And if you're in sync with what God wants in your life, and if you're in sync with character, some things I'm going to talk about right now, if these things are happening in sync, here's the fourth category, and not just in big ways, but usually in small ways, you find yourself as a habit making the right decision at the right time. The right decision at the right time. This is the whole book of Naomi. This is Naomi deciding at the right moment to let Ruth come along with her. This is Ruth deciding at the right moment that she would forsake her gods and forsake her folk and go with the God of Israel. This is the right time. This is the right moment. This is Naomi saying to Ruth when she came home and said, I ran into somebody named Boaz and I was working on his property. And Naomi said, oh, great time. And now you stay right there. And throughout the book, it's a right decision at the right time. It's right decision at the right time. All right, now why is this significant? Here's why it's significant. Because in order to cultivate a sense of what I call a sense for godly timing, you have to foster the capacity to recognize golden opportunities and then don't miss them, but act right away. All right? Everybody say golden opportunities. Now let me tell you what a golden opportunity is. Here's the definition of a golden opportunity. A golden opportunity is an opportunity full of gold. You get it? It's an opportunity running over with high value. It's an opportunity that is priceless. And if you make the right decision at that opportune moment, it could affect the trajectory of your future. It could affect the trajectory of your business. It can affect the trajectory of your family life. It can affect the trajectory of your dreams. It can affect the trajectory of your finances. The right decision at the right moment at a golden opportunity. Now, here's the thing about golden opportunities. You have no control over them. You can't make them happen. They are solely and completely under God's control. However, you can do three things. Now, one of the reasons why I don't like catching municipality buses like in San Francisco, the 24 and the 32 and the 38, is because I can't figure it out. Because they're changing the number. They all look the same to me. They look the same bus. And so I'll be looking at it. So one of the few times I tried to catch the bus. I think I was trying to get back to the Divisadero, and I think it was a 24. I think I was trying to catch. And I went to this place. It's what do you call that? A bus stand. And bus stop, thank you. And I waited. 30, 40 minutes later, no bus. So finally, buses are coming. The 32 not coming. So finally, I asked one of the bus drivers. I said, when will the 32 come? He said, here, never. He said, you at the wrong bus stop. Come on now. Now, it didn't matter how smart I thought I was. It didn't matter how much money I had. It didn't matter how much charisma I had. It didn't matter how much talent I had. None of that mattered. The bus was never coming. There are some things you cannot make the bus come, right? But you can make sure you're at the right bus stop. All right. So number one, all right? Number one, the first thing you have to do is position yourself at the right bus stop. And here's the several things that you need to do. Number one, watch Ruth. She's going to teach us. Number one, you need to choose. When she said, your God is now my God, what she was doing was she was forsaking all her gods, and she was choosing the God of Israel, whose son is Jesus Christ, the true Redeemer of the world. And so she teaches, and that one choice made the right choice at the right time, set her up for a radical change in her destiny. So, for some of you who are playing with this question about should I choose God? And some of you said, I'm not going to choose God because I don't trust the church. Some of you say, I'm not going to choose God because Christians that I know are phony. Some of you say, I'm not going to choose God because I'm not sure what's going to come after that. And I'm here to tell you the best choice you can make on the planet is to make a choice for God. Make a choice for God. A young woman told me after the last worship gathering, she said, Pastor, you're right. She says, I've only been here 3 weeks. And she said, the first week that I showed up, I had been without a job for months. And I had applications everywhere. And she said, but the message went out and I was convicted in my heart and I gave my life back to Jesus. And I said, Lord, I belong to you. And she said, when I got home, there was a message waiting for me. And it was from a job. And the next 2 days, I had an interview. And the next 3 days, I had a job. And she said, now I've got a job right now. Now, there are some unemployed Christians. Listen, I'm not saying, come on now, some of us don't have jobs. What's the point? Here is the point. If you give your life to God and allow God to be active in your life, just like in Naomi, sometimes it will happen immediately. Other times it will take a while. But God will always move you towards redemption. He will always move you towards his best for your life. And he'll give you peace to sustain you while you wait at the bus stop. Secondly, watch Ruth in chapter 2, verse 10. When she runs across Boaz and he treats her nicely, she says to him, I'm a foreigner. Why are you treating me so nicely? Watch Boaz. Watch what he says. Verse 11, he says this. He says, I know you're a foreigner. He said, but I also know all the things you have done. Everybody say done. Say all the things. All the things you have done for your mother-in-law since your husband died. And I've heard, watch this, how you left your father, your mother, and your country, and you've come to live among strangers. Here's his point. The fact that she was there was one of the things that she had done, right? She got up early that morning and said to her mama, her mother-in-law, Naomi, you're too elderly to go out here and glean. I'm a young lady. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to work all day long in this hot sun, pulling these weeds, being bothered by these fellas and being flattened. But I'm going to do this because that's my commitment. And what Boaz was saying is that she had made a decision out of her character. And it was her character that positioned her at the right bus stop. It was her character. A character of humility, a character of generosity, a character of commitment, a character of integrity. Your character, in the little decisions that you make, if you make it out of a godly character, you never know when. But God uses it to position you at the right bus stop. And then thirdly, you've got to practice taking advice. Because advice, God uses advice to position you at the right bus stop. Look at Ruth. Naomi said, when she reported that she had found Boaz, Naomi said, here's my advice. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere else. Work for him for the next 3 months. That's what she did. In chapter 3, Naomi said, tonight's the night. May reminded me of a song by Betty White. Some of y'all don't know who Betty White is. That's all right. But if y'all know, you know the song. All right. But the woman said, tonight's the night. Come on now. That he's going to recognize you as his wife. Come on. So go take a bath and put on some perfume and put on your nicest clothes and go down to the threshing floor. Watch it. And then when the time is right, lay at his feet. I know your Ruth is thinking that's a risk because he may take advantage of me. But then she made a better calculation. She said, look, you've not steered me wrong so far. You're the woman of wisdom in my life. I'm going to trust you and take your advice. Whether it is a business deal or a personal relationship, if you learn to take the advice of people, and if you act out of a place of character, and if you act out of a commitment to God, God will, over time, position you at the right bus stop. Her bus stop was the feet of Boaz, who decided to make her his wife. And then lastly, you've got to take steps of faith. Every step Ruth took, because she was now committed to a God, was a step into the unknown. But it was a step of faith. Listen, when you make those steps, it's risky. Sometimes you'll get it right. Sometimes you'll miss it. But if you mess up trying to please God, if you mess up being a person of integrity, if you mess up having taken the best advice, listen, the reason why Blockbuster CEO missed the moment with Netflix is he took an egotistical standpoint. He didn't investigate, he didn't research, he didn't talk to anybody. He just acted on his own and said, y'all just too small. But I'm telling you, if you get good advice, act out of character, seek to serve God, even if it's a mistake, God will use the mistake to get you the way he wants to get you. All right, here's it. So one, you got to position yourself at the right bus stop. It's up to God to send the golden opportunity, but you got to be there. Number two, you got to know it when you see it. Tell somebody, know it when you see it. Tell them. All right. Now, here's in the text. Ruth is at his foot. He wakes up, says, who's that? She says, Ruth. And he immediately knows who she is. He's been working with her for 3 months. He now makes a calculation very quickly. She put herself at risk on behalf of the family. Character. Come on. Number two, he added that to 3 months of watching her out there working hard with no He added that. He added that to number 3. He said, you could have went after some of these younger guys, but you're coming here. That says something about your quality. He added that. Then he added that to all that she had done even before he met her. And he recognized, and he says, the whole town knows you're a virtuous woman. He recognized the power of her person and her character. And when she said, make me your wife, that's what was meant by put your cover over me. He realized you wife material. Not because how cute she was, but how powerful her character was. He knew it when he saw it. Now, here's the problem with some of us. In order to know it when you see it, you got to change your lens. Because some of us are looking at the world through the wrong lens. Now, I didn't pull off my glasses. I don't see any of y'all. I don't. I was before my 8 o'clock gathering. I went out in the hall looking for Mike, and somebody down the hall thought I saw him because I was looking in their direction. And they say, hey, Pastor. I said, hey. They say, hey, PH. I said, hey. I didn't know who they were. And I'm looking at y'all. I can't distinguish nothing. Come on, I can barely see. I can see your color. You're black, you're white, you're tall. I don't know. You're just a big blob. But when I put on these lenses, there comes clarity and distinction and differentiation. And I can see. And see, this is the issue with some of y'all. My wife told y'all about this, how to do this 3 weeks ago. Do y'all remember? She said that she had to get her lens changed. And when she was 14 years old, early parts of her 15, that she looked for a boyfriend. Come on now. He had to be tall and big arms and handsome, right? But then at 15, before she finished, because she graduated at 16, she said, she turned to God because God had been working in her heart. And she said, God, mess with my heart. Whatever you want me to do, I give myself totally to you, to your agenda, to your purpose, to your plan for my life. And she said, God began to just work in her and begin to change her sense of criteria. Now watch it. When she got to Grambling, come on now, the big arms lined it up. They did. They lined up. Come on now. They didn't just have big arms. They were tall. They had money. They had cars. Come on. And they had good smelling cologne. Come on. They pick her up on one, got her on Monday. Somebody else picked her up on Tuesday. Somebody else got her on Wednesday. Come on now. Thursday, the guy only dated her twice, was proposing to her. Come on now. But that's all right. Friday, I think it was a Friday, a little old fella was sitting under the tree. Come on now. And she had been all that. Come on. Didn't have no big arms. Didn't have no money. Didn't have no car. Didn't have no cologne. God knows he didn't have no rings. Come on now. Sitting under the tree. But when she looked, God had replaced her lens. And she saw what nobody else saw. And she knew it when she saw it. And we're here together 29 years later. Shout hallelujah. Change your lens. Change your lens. And it begins with a changed heart. A surrendered heart shifts how you see things. Let me put it another way, because I want you to get this point. Boaz recognized a woman of character because he was a man of character. Let me say it another way. If you are a good thing, you'll know a good thing when you see it. I used to wonder, why is it that good girls go after bad boys? For decades, I would ask that question. And I do, because in high school, they'd run past me. I was trying to figure this thing out. And finally, it took me decades. And then I figured it out. It's because they're not really, in most cases, good girls. They are bad girls masquerading as good girls. I just helped somebody with that right there. Come on now. All right. Come on, let me get this. All right. But become what you're looking for. And it helps to shape your ability to recognize. Let me put it another way. If you are the best in your industry, you will recognize an industrious golden opportunity. Let me put it another way. Steph Curry, I pronounced it, I had it wrong last time, but I got it right this time. Steph Curry takes 70 to 80 in practice free throws every day. The other day, he hit 70 in a row. 3-pointers in a row without missing. All right. Because he's gotten that good, he can see what other folk can't see. So I'm not worried about the Cavaliers. I'm not. Because he's proven, come on now, that in a crunch. Y'all remember that? He went between his legs and he went out in the three-point and they had 2 defenders on him and everybody was saying, throw the ball. But because he was as good as he is, he saw a little crack. Come on now. And he said, I can make it. And so come on now. As he was going out, they were hitting him and he let the ball go and they hit him and he hit the flow. But to everybody else, all they heard was, nothing but nets. You see, when you become good, you know a good opportunity when you see it. And you can make it even falling down. And then lastly, as we finish this, so you got to position yourself. You got to know it when you see it, or rather know it when God sends it. And then, don't miss the moment. Here's what I mean. Watch it. Watch what Boaz did. He teaches us. Do the right thing at the right time. Here's where a lot of us miss it. The right way. Say it with me. Right thing, right time, the right way. He looks and she's at his feet. He says to her in chapter 3, he says, don't worry about a thing. He said, I'll do what's necessary. He says, now, there's another fella who's closer kin to you than I am. He says, but you just stay here till the morning and you get out of here before anybody see you, because everybody knows you're a virtuous woman. You're a woman of high character. He said, and before the day, he said, and I'm going to go, I'm going to immediately, say immediately, I'm going to go take care of this thing. I'm going to go talk to him. Now, right thing, right time. He didn't wait. He knew what he needed to do, and he acted on it. But he did it the right way. Here's my translation of what he was saying. You see it all in chapter 4. Here's what he said. Despite the fact that he was intoxicated by her character, despite the fact that he had already been overcome by the grand possibility of her being his wife, despite the fact, come on now, that his mind and his body was now in agreement, she's the one. He decided that if she really is the one, the confirmation of it will come through my doing the right thing. So he said, I'm going to go talk to the guy. And if it's what I think it is, if this is what God wants for us, then the guy will not claim his rightful claim and you'll be mine. On the other hand, if he claims his rightful claim, then you'll be his and you were never mine in the first place. Now there's a lesson for somebody. I read the other day where somebody was in an affair with somebody, and she said, I don't know why people talk bad about affairs. She said, I have a right to be in love. But baby, let me tell you, if he doesn't belong to you, and then she said, well, but God wants us to be, well, baby, learn from Boaz. If God wants y'all to be together, you get out of the picture and do it the right way, and then God will figure it out. Come on now. Do it the right way. And so at the end of the day, he meets the guy that he conducts the business. He says, hey, you want to buy the land at Naomi? You're the closest kin. The guy says, sure. And he said, oh, by the way, there's a Moabite. Listen to how he plains it. He stacks the deck. He says, it comes with Ruth, the Moabite woman. In other words, now she's been converted to Jewish faith, but he said, but she's the Moabite. He framed it that way. She's a foreigner, you know. And if you get the land, you're going to have to marry this foreign woman from the Moabite. You know how those Moabite women are, right? But you're going to have to marry her, and then you're going to have the first child will have rights to the land. So I'm just telling you the full story. I want you to read the fine print. And when he laid out the fine print, the guy said, oh, no, that's going to threaten my head. He said, no, you have it. And I can just see Boaz say, God bless you, young man. Come on now, God bless you. Because Boaz knew it when he saw it. Come on now, he did the right thing at the right time, the right way. And watch how it ends. Naomi has a baby in her lap. Because the two of them married, Ruth conceives and gives birth. And the woman who thought her future was over finds that God has redeemed it because she just kept making the right decision at the right time. Give God a hand praise. Take a card. Let me see your connection card. Some of you got to cultivate this sense for godly timing. And if you're really and committed, ready to do that, I just simply want you to write under the response to the message, I will cultivate a sense of timing and turn it in and get busy. God bless you.